So yeah, I'm Brian Koch. I'm with the State Soil and Water Conservation Board, Regional Watershed Coordinator, and since I work out of the regional office, I get to cover a lot of program areas. So I do get to work in our water quality management plan program. I don't write the plans, but I do sign people up all the time and promote the program, because that's basically our work when we do like watershed protection plan. I believe this area is not in a watershed protection plan, but maybe in the bacteria implementation group implementation plan, which is cybersecurity. Okay, cybersecurity. Okay, so there's a watershed protection plan. Yeah. So I can do a whole presentation on that one day too, if you would like. But so I work, like I said, I work under our non-point source grant program, but I also am our agency representative on the Coastal Coordination Advisory Council. So if you have anything in the coastal zone and you're interested in a coastal management program or projects of special merit, I'm the agency representative, and I help people promote projects. And my focus is on implementing the Texas Coastal Non-Point Source Management Pollution Program, which is now called Clean Coast Texas. So I get to work on that. But today I'm going to talk about our water quality management plan program. And so first off, Soil and Water Conservation Board, we're the lead agency responsible for planning, implementing, and managing agriculture non-point source water pollution programs. So what we're trying to do is use those conservation practices, or now what they're calling regenerative. I actually practice some regenerative on about 3 acres in Wharton County, and I've been doing it for about 10 years. And it's amazing to see how much water you can infiltrate by just protecting the soil. So I can give another presentation on that one day too, because I'm a soil entrepreneur. But we do these programs. We want to make sure that agriculture non-point source pollution is just not happening. And if you're infiltrating water, you're eliminating that as well. And I've seen it done on farms and ranches across the whole area I work in. So this stuff works, and it works well. I practice it. I stand behind it because I do it and I believe it. But what we do is provide that technical and financial assistance to the local soil and water conservation districts. And Harvey did an outstanding job of describing what the districts are. But basically, there are eyes and ears on the ground. So when we bring these programs in, this water quality management plan or watershed protection plan, the first people we call is the soil and water conservation district, and because they are, first of all, they're landowners, so they are stakeholders in one way or another, and they might not be in the specific watershed, but they're going to help guide us to a lot of the things that we need to do and put in these watershed protection plans. But they do a great job of encouraging landowners and ag producers voluntarily conserve natural resources on their private lands through implementation of these best management practices. And it does result in a positive impact on state water resources and protect soil quality, which supports the strength of the Texas agriculture economy. And I will say, on this positive impact is a real thing. I write our success stories, and the big success stories that we send to DC through the 319 of the non-point source program, every one of them that I write has something to do with this water quality management plan program in the local districts. So I've done it. We've made impacts on large watersheds, small watersheds. The watershed I did the success story on was actually in Wharton County on Peach Creek. We have a lot of work, conservation work between us and the NRCS through the district there, and so it really tells that story. And if you're interested in success stories, I'll be glad to share any of that information as well. So we administer several programs to achieve these conservation goals. They're across the state. They include, they're not limited to, today I'm obviously the water quality management plan program. I work under the non-point source grant program. One of our big, I guess, more highlighted ones is the Rio Grande Vegetative Management Plan program. It used to be called the Carrizo Cane program. It's basically, that's more of a, I guess, border security deal, and we have people that specifically deal with that. Harvey talked about the flood control program, and then we have the on the ground program, which really pushes forward a lot of the regenerative agriculture practices. I think right now we have a grant that's through USDA and partnered with A&M on the the Texas Conservation and Sustainability Initiative, and that there's some funding in there for landowners as well. So, program history, were created by the 73rd Texas Legislature in 1993. Senate Bill 503. A lot of times when you go to these district meetings, they talk about the 503 program. That's what this is. There's the plan itself, and then we have cost share attached to that, and I'll go into that in a little bit in the presentation. But it is a voluntary program. All ag non-point source programs are voluntary, but what the exception, and again, Harvey mentioned the poultry program, and this deals specifically with dry litter poultry operations. So these are the operations that are actively every day pushing manure out of the poultry houses into a place to where it's either covered or caught, burned, where the litter can't leave the operation, and then they compost it, and then either they can sell it or land apply it or anything. And in that water quality management plan, they are given practices on to handle manure, mortality, and other odor and other things that are associated with poultry houses. But it's a voluntary enrollment for the program, except for all these dry litter poultry operations have to have a plan. And it's come to the point to where Farm Service Agency will not give producers loans until they have a plan in place for their operations. So it's a site-specific plan for land improvement measures developed through the Soil and Water Conservation District for agricultural lands. It provides farmers and ranchers a voluntary way to deal with any, it gives them a level of pollution prevention or abatement consistent with state water quality standards. So when that plan gets certified, and land here in this area is going to be certified and working out of our regional office, we go through and check and ensure all the practices that are in there are going to help be consistent with state water quality standards. And then it includes appropriate and essential land treatment practices, production practices, management measures, or technologies applicable to the planned land use. So we're not just writing, rubber stamping or cookie cutter type plans. We are actually going on the place, looking at the practices, and looking at, grazing or rice farming or row crop or timber, whatever their practice, we're incorporating whatever practices specific to those operations. And then we use the field office, the NRCS has the field office tech guide, and that's basically their all their technical guidebook on how these practices work, where they apply, where they're best applied, and then it goes down to the specific county and what practices work best in each county. And it's a site-specific plan with a combination of best management practices that are for the treatment of identified resource concerns, but we base them on soil types, planned land use or production goals, any known or potential water quality or natural resource issues, and then any other site-specific factors. Harvey mentioned how the districts have priorities. Well, I live in Wharton County, and the #1 priority for that district is gully erosion. You're flat as a pancake in Wharton. How do you have gullies? Well, you'd be amazed. I've seen some that with big tractors, just because the way water's trying to find the fastest way to get to the stream, and it cuts and finds every way to do it. And that's one of the one of the issues we deal with as you get closer to the coast. And then any other site-specific factors we take into account. But it doesn't cover the entire farm and ranch. We like to say operating unit, because if you have multiple operating units spread throughout the county or district or whatever, you might have a plan on each place, because you're probably not mixing that herd with that herd, or you're not, that farm is a different corn crop than you might be doing a cotton, or whatever your rotation is. There's all these different deals, but it's specifically designed to achieve that pollution prevention and abatement on that specific farm. And if you ever want to get a nighttime reading, you can always pull up the water code, and it's all right there, 26.2. So the technical criteria that NRCS filled off as tech guide, it's you can do all the approved practices for a selected county. I'm just going to say that one thing we encourage the districts to do is take our entire cost list and approve it, because you never know what you're going to encounter. We did a watershed protection plan over in Hayes and Caldwell County on Plum Creek, Lockhart, that area. And our first, we had a district technician there, and the first cost list we came up with, we didn't put some things in there. Well, lo and behold, we had run into a producer that needed critical area planning, and we didn't put it on the list. Well, it was one of those lessons learned. Hey, just put in the kitchen sink, because you never know what you're going to encounter. But that's basically, and I think the program will be available for everybody, so you can click that link. It works. We just updated this program just to make sure everything works and everything on that. So if you're interested in going to that, you can go to there or go to your local NRCS office and talk to them. But there's essential practices for each land use. Cropland, we want to encourage conservation crop rotation. I'm a big proponent of reduced tillage, either no-till or strip-till or other things on row crop land. I've seen some places that producers in Matagorda County have black clay soil that's close to the coast, and they're doing the strip-till and then crop rotation, and in their crop rotation they're actually using cover crops in the rotation. A couple of them are grazing cover crops during the off season, and we did an infiltration test on those properties, and we did one farm without livestock integration did 2 inches in under 10 minutes. That's 2 inches of rain in under 10 minutes. And the other one with livestock integration did 3 inches in under 6 minutes. And that was on heavy clay soils. And so I'm a big proponent of reducing disturbance and keeping the soil covered, because that's one of those that should be an essential practice. But conservation crop rotation, you can put cover crops or something like that can be added to that. But basically that breaks up pest cycles. And might help with compaction issues and other things, because you have different roots and different things going on with that. But on pasture land and range land, we want to look at prescribed grazing. We want to make sure those grass heights, especially on native grasses, we don't want to graze them below 6 to 8 inches. I'd say don't even go a little higher than that. Keep it higher on that. But on pasture land, like on what they call approved grasses, no shorter than 3 inches. And then livestock water, we want to make sure we have water available for livestock in each pasture or pattern, how we're set up. Wildlife management, we take that into account. There's different things we can help encourage, like maybe sculpting, like go further south, Texas, sculpting brush for edge for white-tailed deer, and then maybe hiding places for quail, and incorporating that. And then also wetland wildlife management. And then on forest land, we do a lot of our forestry stuff. We do grant programs to the Texas A&M Forest Service, and they handle a lot of that. It's a lot of BMP training for foresters. And with that program, like timber companies won't buy timber unless you've gone through the BMP training. So there's kind of some fallbacks on that. It kind of encourages people to follow the practice and stuff. But they also include nutrient management, so that's soil testing to ensure that you're not over applying nutrients, pest management, animal waste management system, waste utilization. That's if you're applying manure over the landscape, and then irrigation water management. For the longest time, we would this is when I go back 20 years, but when I first started, we weren't considered an irrigation area in our area. And I was like, we have rice farms, and they just didn't think about rice needing irrigation, because they talked about the panhandle and places in South Texas where they use irrigation. It's like, well, so it didn't really affect our programs and stuff. People just didn't realize, I don't know why you didn't realize rice was irrigated, but there was kind of a block in that. So that was interesting.
It's too much water.
Yes, yes. But other things, we want to look at erosion control measures to bring soil loss to acceptable levels. Erosion control to treat other forms of erosion. I mentioned the gully erosion, and then any other practices that meet site-specific concerns. And then why have a WCAMP? Well, to abate and prevent erosion and promote conservation. It provides kind of a strategic management plan for your operation. It's also an assurance policy. It's state certified proof that you're implementing conservation practices. So fortunately in Texas, we haven't had a lot of regulation that just goes down on landowners because it's hard to regulate on source pollution. Because we've done source tracking studies across the state, and in those bacteria samples, a lot of times it's over 50 to 60% wildlife contribution. Now, that's not to say, hey, we can maybe approve upland habitat and other areas of habitat so the animals aren't concentrated near the stream. That might have an effect too. But to point the finger and say all bacteria is coming from agriculture, we kind of tease that out because we understand that there's a lot of things on the landscape that are contributing that aren't livestock. But that assurance policy, it's basically the state saying, hey, they're following this plan, they're doing the practices, they're protecting water quality, and that's my favorite thing about the program because it gives you that protection. Because you get a lot of people, especially with we're talking about development. Another thing, and I think that's that bottom bullet about resolving water quality complaints. We're seeing a lot more complaints because a lot of people come out to the country and farm animals are doing farm animal things, and people don't like it. We get calls about it, and then we go out and there's nothing going on. It just cows that are close to a fence, they stink. Okay, well, what are we gonna? How are we going to do? But so that's another thing. But we want to demonstrate that voluntary conservation programs promote agriculture production and environmental quality as compatible goals, and demonstrate that agriculture is doing our part to protect water quality. I will say that these success stories are right. I was heavily involved with our project on the lower San Antonio River, where we worked through the local district in Karnes County, and that we had a technician there. He was retired from the NRCS, but he developed over 100 of these water quality management plans across Karnes, Wilson, part of Goliad, and parts of DeWitt County that drain into that lower San Antonio watershed. And within, I think, about 8 years of starting that project, both two major segments of the lower San Antonio River were off the 303 list. And then he has since retired. And since I helped with our program in the office, I did a status reviews on a lot of those plans that he wrote out there. And those ranchers are still following those plans. And this was a couple summers ago because I was training some new employees in our office on how to do status reviews. And they were still following the plans after 10 to 15 years. And they were pretty dry out there, and they were still maintaining their herds. They still have lots of grass. There's a lot of things, and a lot of them, they took land and through just changing their grazing practices, native plants started coming back, quail started coming back, all these other benefits outside of the water quality. And they were telling us these stories when we were doing these status reviews. So it's kind of more success than just water quality, and not just water quality. It's important, but these conservation practices really do a lot for not only water quality, but water quantity, wildlife. Even, you see some of the stories where people just, they feel like the stress has gone down because they're, not having to worry about so many things. So there's a lot of cool success beyond water quality program. So a plan, what does it contain? A district cooperator agreement. That's basically saying I'm agreeing to work with the local soil and water conservation district on whatever we need to do because they sign off on the plan first. There's a request for planning assistance. Again, it's a voluntary program. There's soils maps and interpretations. Conservation plan map basically lays out the operation, where your water sources are, where we're maybe doing brush control, maybe where we're planting grass, maybe, you know, whatever practices you're doing, we lay it out on that map and do that. Implementation schedule. So we have there, we have schedule, and then attached to that schedule is the narrative and the worksheets, practice standards and engineering designs, and then signature sheet to verify individuals' privacy. So that's important. We don't go talk about, hey, so-and-so signed up and got this much cost share and did all this work. If you want to go tell someone you did that, that's fine with us, advertise our program, but we're not going to go advertise it because we can't, you know, it's between you and the district and the state board and the NRCS, and it doesn't leave that unless you talk about it. So that's how that works. So how do you get a WQMP? Well, you can individually request planning assistance through your local soil and water conservation district. A lot of times, we have a lot of repeat customers, so they just come call us at the regional office and sign them up through the regional office, then we'll take it to the local district. That's what I was actually doing today. I signed someone up in Harris County, and I had to run up to Huffmeister at their office up there and drop it off. So, you know, that's just one of the things. The plan is usually a lot of times developed by the SWCD technician if they have one. Faith used to be a technician in Austin County with their soil and water conservation on our 319 project there. So she's familiar with that. But a lot of times, years ago, NRCS did write a lot of plans for us, but most of the plans are written through the regional office in specific areas. I don't know if anybody's in here from Matagorda County and parts of Wharton County, but we do have a technician in Matagorda County, and he covers the Caney Creek, Tres Palacios, and Bronco Bay watersheds. So if you know anybody in the watersheds that might need some conservation assistance, we have a program down there. We can get money pretty fast to those producers down there. But producer implements the plan on their land, and then we do the annual I mentioned the status reviews I've done before, but basically our office does 50 a year, and we're doing from there. So out of Wharton, we cover 47 counties. I think it's 43 districts, 41 districts that we cover, but basically it's Refugio, what's that? Atascosa, Bear, Homau, up to Travis, and across to Jasper. That's basically the area that the office covers. But we have parts of Area 3 and Area 4. So that's how that works. Let's see. And then we have the financial assistance, and I'm going to get a little more detail on that. So we have the state or the 503 funding, and that's that cost share rate. We pay 75% up to $30,000. That's the typical plan you're getting, you know, in your certain areas. If you do have a 319 project, that's the same $30,000, but we pay 60%, and the land pays 40% cost share. But we cover whatever the cost list the district has. We cover those practices specifically, and then we do a lot of times since we're partner a lot with NRCS, we can write a plan and develop a plan because it falls under their conservation plans, and we can fund them through the various farm programs. I think EQIP is probably the most popular one, but there's a few other ones out there that can be used for that. So I'm going to say, when you apply for the cost share, you get ranked. And if you're in Area 3, so that's basically everything west of the Brazos down to in our office down to, I guess, the Aransas River. That's pretty good boundaries. But then we go, so that's Area 3, and that includes Fort Bend, Brazoria County, and parts of Galveston County, that district in there. So that's Area 3. That list has about 300 and something people, 380 people. So there's a long wait for that money. So we get about 500,000 per area per year for cost share. Area 4, the wait isn't as long. I know we've done quite a few plans up here, and they get funded pretty quick. We done quite a bit in around Waller County, done some in Harris County, just through some connections we've made in this area. So there's a lot of people participating in the program. There's always potential for more. And as much as I like to encourage people to sign up, especially in area 3, you're going to have to wait. I mean, unless you just fall right on the coast. And there's since we do our rankings, we do them based on water quality in the coastal zone, and there's some priority aquifers and other things that we take into account since the legislature tells us to where to direct that money. So that's how that works. If you happen to fall within a 319 project, that money is first come, first served. It's available. I know in Matagorda County, since we have a 3, we do a mix of both. So that's how that works. And then but we do have funding available, but we also have the technical assistance as well. So all of it, it works toward, achieving those goals of, getting clean water and better water quality. It's not. Yes. I get froze up, but that's pretty much my last slide. I have questions and my contact information on the very last slide. But
I think it was that.
So that's my information. But does anybody have questions? Yes. 75%.
Have a land over 100 acres and raising things, like types of practices. Is it actually what it costs that the doctor thinks not, or is there some public?
Well, each district sets up a cost list, and that's based on how much it costs to build fence, install pipeline, drill a water well, plant grass, whatever practice entails. And so say the fence is $6 a foot, we'll pay 75% up to that $6. And so on grazing land, we want to promote rotational grazing. So we want, if we don't have cross fence, if that 100 acres needs to be divided up for cross fence, we can pay for that cross fence. We can pay for anything to deal with getting livestock water. So that starts with a water well if you need it. If you don't have a current one, we can drill a water well. We can put in livestock pipeline to go to water troughs. We can fund water troughs. But a lot of people are starting to do more of this regenerative grazing, and they're getting away from permanent troughs, but we can still fund the pipelines to the different paddocks. So you can do a portable trough and do a quick connect and get the trough through that. So we try to be as adaptable as we can to the operation. One new thing now is people are asking, are you going to cost your livestock collars? So those are starting to come in. Actually work with someone the other day that was trying to, I was like, they'll have that. We're not there yet. It's pretty new technology. So I don't know what we're going to see. I think if NRCS takes the lead on it, we'll probably do something with that. But in the meantime, that we do the cross fencing to split up the land and then try to promote that rotational grazing. It's easier to prescribe grazing. Type grazing system.
What's the timeline for applying?
So when you apply, we'll take it. So as soon as we get it signed, we'll take it to the Soil and Water Conservation District. And when they have their monthly meeting, they approve the request for cost share assistance and then the request for cost share ranking. Now, if you're in one of those 319 districts, you don't get ranked. You can get ranked if you want to, but if you want to take if the money is available and take it right away, usually it comes up pretty quick. So we try to encourage people to do that if that funding is available. A lot of people want 75% of them, I'll wait for that. So it just depends on that. But basically, it all depends on, most districts meet every month. Sometimes things happen, they can't get a quorum. But some have built in where we can sign things between meetings and just so we can get the ball rolling because we want to get that ranking in. And when we do have the ranking, every year you're on that list, you get 5 additional points every September 1st. Because that's our fiscal year, so that kind of bumps those people up further down the list. And I know people who've been on that list for like over 5 years because they just aren't in the priority area. And it's frustrating because they really want to do a lot of these conservation practices, and it's kind of holding them back to, they're doing what they can, but it's kind of holding them back to really step forward in the operation. So, I think if anything, I would encourage people to just let their legislators know, hey, this is a program out here. We do have a group that lobbies for the districts and for the state board, but any additional information you can get to them to say, hey, we feel like this is important. And I think with, a lot of the challenge we're seeing with land conversion and everything, I think programs like this can help people keep the land in, ag production rather than turn it into an something.
So you said Waller is one of the lesser subscribed. So more likely to get.
Yes. It's they're not effective. It's just the way that the money. It's funny because, we share the Area 3 money with our Arlington office. Arlington, their awful covered area is basically, that Aransas River, and then they kind of follow those counties and then out there, but they have a lot. If you have the coastal districts, those just rank higher because the coastal zone, you have a lot of 303 zone, and so that combination of it really just boosts people up. In Area 4, since poultry is one of the priorities, so you get extra points for having a poultry operation. Fortunately, it's a one-time cost share thing, so they're not applying for cost share every year on the poultry operation, so they kind of gets it out of the way, and so we can fund some of these other folks as well. So we like I said, it's one of those things. It is frustrating that we can't help everybody that signs up immediately, but again, we don't really have the manpower either to do it, because there's 3 people in my office covering 47 counties that are actually physically write plans, and they have to write 12 plans a year, just under the way the rules are. But even with that, it's just hard to keep up with, because we just don't have the funding to do that. And if we could get more technicians, because I've had technicians that, like I mentioned, the one in Carnes, he wrote 100 plans, 100 sub plans. My guy in Matagorda County, he's retired from the state board, so he knows how to write a plan. And I think he's written probably 20 since he started. He's just a part-time employee, but he knows how to do it. He knows how to talk to the producer. He knows how to, so that he doesn't have a lot of the impediments that a lot of other people have had, just working through the program. So, but it just, we do what we can.
The landowner gamble
Either or. This case, the one I did in Harris County, it's the landowner. He has someone leasing the land, but the leasing is interested in rotational grazing. So we want to, do what we can to encourage that. But question.
Just one other thing, like I said, I did the state board plan, and there is the $30,000 limitation, for an individual area, any contiguous piece of property, which is not that much, but when I did it just 4 years ago, the lifetime limitation was 15,000. So it's actually doubled, and then the year after I did it, it went up. So
life?
Yes, yeah, it's a one-time cost share unless there are special instances where people can apply for a waiver, and they say they buy more land, but if they buy more land, or say, I got a plan and I did cost sharing stuff, and then my son wanted to take over, I gave it to him, we can come back and, you know, with that, so there's some things you can do to do that.
And it's also, if you have property that's non-contiguous, each one of those properties can be applied for. So Warren Ranch and Indiangrass, you know, are separate operations, so there's an opportunity to apply from there. Correct?
Yes. You're welcome. And I heard, I wanted to mention, since I am working the non-point source grant program, we will have a request for proposals in August. And I heard someone talking about pocket prairies, that might be a 319 project in case anybody's interested, so visit with me and we can might do something. So, that's a 60-40 match on the 319, so. All right, thank you.